6 months had passed since the day the galaxy stood together against Emperor Torvok. 6 months of change, of growth, of hope. The story of the silver-blooded princess and the human medic had spread across every corner of known space. It was told in taverns on distant worlds, shared in news broadcasts on major planets, and whispered among children as a bedtime tale. The image of a small salvage ship facing down an empire had become a symbol of something greater than any single species or nation. And now, on the grand stage of the Galactic Assembly, Princess Lyra was about to speak. The assembly hall was enormous. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform, filled with representatives from every known species. Humans sat beside Kroians. Omari nodded to Theldon. Even a small group of Varian rebels had been given seats. Their presence a direct insult to Emperor Torvok. Lyra stood at the center of it all, wearing a simple white dress that showed her blue skin and silver blood markings with pride. She had changed in the past 6 months. The thin, broken creature that Jay had found in the wreckage was gone. In her place stood a woman who had learned her own worth, who had found her voice, who was ready to change the galaxy. But she was still nervous. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked out at the sea of faces waiting for her to speak. Then she saw him. Jay was sitting in the human section, wearing his old medical jacket because he refused to dress up for anything. He smiled at her, giving her a small nod of encouragement. Lyra took a deep breath and began. My name is Lyra. 6 months ago, I was dying on a nameless moon at the edge of Varian space. My own father had ordered my death because I was born with silver blood instead of gold. I was abandoned by my people, forgotten by the universe, ready to disappear into nothing. Her voice was soft at first, but it grew stronger with every word. Then a human found me. His name is Jay. He's not a soldier or a politician or a hero from stories. He's a medic on a salvage ship. He fixes broken things. And when he found me, that is exactly what he did. She paused, letting her eyes move across the hall. He did not care about my blood. He did not care about my rank or my species or the political consequences of saving me. He saw a person in pain, and he helped. It was that simple. And that simple act of kindness changed everything. In his seat, Jay shifted uncomfortably. He had never liked attention, and having a princess talk about him in front of the entire galaxy was his idea of a nightmare. But he stayed still and kept his eyes on Lyra, silently supporting her. Lyra continued. When I woke up on his ship, I asked him why he saved me. He said it was because I was hurt. I asked him about my silver blood, my curse, the thing that had defined my entire life. He told me that where he comes from, blood is just blood. It does not determine worth. She took a step forward, her voice rising. I did not believe him at first. How could I? I had spent my whole life being told that I was a mistake, an error, something that should never have existed. But Jay kept his promise. Every day on that ship, he treated me with kindness. He listened to me. He made me laugh. He showed me what it feels like to be valued. Tears were forming in her eyes now, but she did not try to hide them. And then, when my father came to finish what he had started, something amazing happened. The galaxy came together. Ships from a dozen species arrived to protect one woman they had never met. They risked their lives because they heard the truth and decided it mattered. She looked directly at the Varian rebel section. Jorik was there, the young soldier who had abandoned his post to fight for her. He nodded, his own eyes glistening. This is what I have learned from humans. They are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the oldest or the wisest. But they have something that many of us have forgotten. They have empathy. They see suffering, and they feel it. They see injustice, and they fight it. They look at a dying stranger on a distant moon, and they choose to help. The hall was completely silent. Every eye was on her. I am not standing here to tell you that humans are perfect. They make mistakes. They fight among themselves. They have their own history of cruelty and prejudice. Jay told me about the dark times in human history when people were judged by the color of their skin. But they learned. They grew. They became better. She spread her arms wide. We can do the same. All of us. Every species in this hall has its own history of hate and fear. We have all judged others by things they cannot control. Blood color, skin type, planet of origin. These differences have divided us for too long. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but somehow it carried to every corner of the vast hall. I was born with silver blood. I was told it made me worthless. I believed it for 23 years. And then a human looked at me and said it did not matter. He saw me, not the curse, not the blood, just me. She wiped her eyes and smiled. That is what I want for everyone. I want every child born with something different about them to know that they are not alone. I want every person who has been told they are worthless to know that they have value. I want every species in this galaxy to learn what one human medic taught me, that kindness is more powerful than hate, and that every single life matters. She stepped back from the center of the platform. Thank you. For a moment, there was silence. Complete, total silence. Lyra's heart pounded. Had she failed? Had her words meant nothing? Then, from somewhere in the crowd, someone started clapping. It was a single pair of hands, slow and steady. The sound spread. More hands joined. The clapping grew louder faster until it became a roar of applause that shook the walls of the assembly hall. Species that had never agreed on anything were standing together, cheering for a silver-blooded princess and the message she carried. Representatives who had been enemies for centuries were looking at each other with new eyes. In the human section, Jay was clapping too, but his eyes never left Lyra. He was smiling, and for once, he did not look uncomfortable with the attention. He looked proud. After the session ended, Lyra found him in a quiet corridor outside the main hall. He was leaning against the wall, trying to hide from the crowds of people who wanted to meet the famous human medic. That was a good speech, he said. You think so? I think you made some important people think about things they have been avoiding for a long time. That is not nothing. Lyra moved closer to him. She was taller than him now that she was standing straight and healthy, but she still looked up at him like he was something precious. I meant every word, you know? About what you did for me. About what you taught me. I did not teach you anything. You already had it inside you. I just helped you see it. She shook her head. You saved my life, Jay, not just my body. My soul. Everything I am now, everything I will become, started because you refused to walk away. She took his hand in hers. My people have a tradition. When someone saves your life, you owe them a debt that can never be repaid. But I am going to try anyway. For the rest of my life, I'm going to fight for the things you believe in. I am going to show the galaxy that kindness matters, that every person has value, that differences are not weaknesses. Jay squeezed her hand gently. That sounds like a lot of work. It is. It is. Will you help me? He pretended to think about it for a moment. Then he smiled. Someone has to keep you from falling off stages. Lyra laughed. It was a bright, free sound, so different from the silent suffering of her old life. She reached up and touched his face gently. Thank you, Jay, for everything. Thank you for giving me something worth fighting for. They stood there together in that quiet corridor. Two people from different worlds who had found each other against all odds. Behind them, the galaxy was changing. The walls between species were starting to crack. The old hatreds were being questioned. A new dawn was rising, and it had all started with one simple choice: a human medic, finding a dying princess and deciding that she was worth saving. Some people would call it luck. Others would call it fate. But Jay knew the truth. It was just kindness, and sometimes that is all it takes to change everything. The 5 Vorian warships moved through space like shadows. Their hulls were dark and sleek, built for speed and destruction. Each one was larger than the horizon's edge, armed with weapons that could tear the small salvage ship apart in seconds. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Captain Yuna stared at the scanner with cold eyes. Beside her, Dongsu was calculating possible escape routes, but his face told her what she already knew. There was nowhere to run. "How long before they reach us?" she asked. 20 minutes, maybe less," Dongsu replied. "They are moving fast." Hana slammed her hand against the wall. "This is insane. We are a salvage ship. We have one small laser cannon that we use to cut metal. They have enough firepower to destroy a small moon." "I know," Yuna said quietly. The door opened, and Jay walked in with Lyra leaning on his arm. She was still weak, but she had insisted on coming to the bridge when she heard the alert. Her face was pale, and her dark eyes were filled with fear. "They are here for me," she said. It was not a question. "Yes," Yuna admitted. "Then let me go. Give me to them. I will not let you die for me." "No," Jay said immediately. "Jay, please. They will kill all of you. My father does not care about diplomatic consequences. He does not care about anything except making sure I am dead. If you give me to him, maybe he will let you live." Jay turned to face her fully. His eyes were hard with determination. "Listen to me carefully, Lyra. I did not save your life just so you could throw it away. You matter. You have value. And I'm not going to let anyone tell you otherwise, especially not the man who tried to murder you. But, no, we will find another way." Lyra stared at him, tears forming in her eyes again. She could not understand why this human cared so much. She could not understand why he would risk everything for someone like her. Before she could say anything else, a loud sound filled the bridge. It was an incoming communication request from the lead Vorian ship. Yuna took a deep breath. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was Emperor Torvak himself. He looked nothing like Lyra. His skin was a deep blue, almost black, and his golden eyes glowed with cold power. His face was sharp and angular, showing no warmth, no emotion, no humanity. He wore the golden armor of the Vorian Royal Guard, decorated with symbols of conquest and power. "Captain Yuna of the human salvage ship Horizon's Edge," he said. His voice was like ice cracking. "I am Emperor Torvak of the Vorian Empire. You have something that belongs to me. Return it immediately." Yuna stood tall, refusing to show fear. "With respect, Emperor, the person you are talking about does not belong to anyone. She is a living being, not property." Torvak's expression did not change. "The creature you are protecting is defective. She carries silver blood, a curse that has plagued my family for generations. She should have been destroyed at birth. I am simply correcting a mistake that was allowed to live for too long." Lyra flinched at his words. Jay put his arm around her, holding her close. "She is your daughter," Jay said, stepping forward. "How can you talk about her like this?" For the first time, Torvak's eyes moved to look at Jay. There was something in his gaze that was worse than anger. It was complete indifference. "She is not my daughter. She is a genetic error. Nothing more." Yuna moved in front of Jay before he could respond. "Emperor Torvak, I am transmitting this conversation on an open channel. Every ship in this sector can hear what you are saying. Every species watching will know that the Vorian Empire tried to murder an innocent woman because of the color of her blood. Torvak's eyes narrowed slightly. It was the first sign of emotion he had shown. You think I care what lesser species think of us? Maybe you should. Because if you destroy the ship, the galaxy will know the truth. And they will remember. For a long moment, nothing happened. Torvak stared at Una. Una stared back. The tension on the bridge was so thick it was hard to breathe. Then Torvak smiled. It was a terrible smile, empty and cruel. You think your words have power? You are nothing. Your ship is nothing. Your species is a footnote in the history of the galaxy. I will destroy you, and no one will remember your names. He waved his hand, and the communication ended. The screen went dark. Wow, Jaime said into the silence. That went well. Una turned to her crew. Battle stations. We may not be able to win, but we can make them hurt. Hannah ran to the engine room. Dongsu started calculating evasive patterns. Tay, the old cook, went to help with damage control. Jay stayed with Lyra on the bridge, refusing to leave her side. The first volley of Vorian weapons fire lit up the darkness of space. Una threw the ship into a sharp turn, narrowly avoiding the blasts. The horizon's edge shook violently, throwing everyone off balance. Return fire, Una ordered. Their single laser cannon sent a beam of light toward the lead Vorian ship. It hit the shields and did nothing. The Vorians did not even slow down. More weapons fire came. This time, one of the blasts hit. The ship rocked hard, and alarms started screaming. Hull breach in Cargo Bay 3, Dongsu reported. Emergency shields holding, but barely. Una's hands flew over the controls, trying to keep them alive. But she knew it was hopeless. They were outgunned, outmanned, and out of options. Then, suddenly, something strange happened. A new ship appeared on the scanner. Then another. Then another. Ships of different sizes and designs, coming from every direction. Dongsu's eyes went wide. Captain, you need to see this. The main screen changed to show the space around them. What Una saw took her breath away. There were ships everywhere. A Krellian merchant cruiser. 2 Omari patrol vessels. A massive Thelden cargo ship. A small group of Renari fighters. And more were arriving every second. A communication request came in. Una accepted it. The screen filled with a mosaic of faces. Different species, different ships, different reasons for being there. But they were all saying the same thing. We heard your transmission, said the Krellian captain. We stand with you. The Vorians have no right to murder their own children, said the Omari commander. We will not let this happen. Our ancestors faced prejudice and hate, said a Thelden elder. We remember what it feels like to be called worthless. We will not abandon this woman. Even a lone Vorian voice joined the chorus. It was a young male on a small, battered ship that had clearly seen better days. I am Jork, former soldier of the Vorian army. I left because I could not stomach the cruelty of our leaders anymore. I stand with the human. I stand with the princess. Una felt tears forming in her eyes. She had transmitted the conversation, hoping that someone might see the truth. She never expected this. Emperor Tarvak's voice cut through the communications. This is madness. You cannot all be willing to die for one worthless creature. She is not worthless, Una said. And neither is anyone else. That is the lesson you never learned, Emperor. Every life has value. Every person deserves a chance. Torvak looked at the fleet surrounding his ships. For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered in his golden eyes. He had expected an easy kill. He had not expected the galaxy to stand in his way. This is not over, he snarled. You have made powerful enemies today. Then, one by one, his warships turned and retreated into the darkness. The bridge of the horizon's edge erupted in cheers. Hana came running from the engine room, hugging everyone she could reach. Dongsu collapsed in his chair, laughing with relief. Even old Tae was smiling through his tears. Lyra stood in the middle of it all, unable to believe what had just happened. Strangers from across the galaxy had come to save her. People who had never met her, who owed her nothing, had risked their lives because they believed she deserved to live. Jay stood beside her, holding her hand. "Do you believe me now?" he asked softly. Lyra looked at all the ships on the scanner, then back at the kind-eyed human who had started all of this. "Yes," she whispered. "I think I do." The battle was over, but the story was not finished yet, because Lyra had discovered something more important than survival. She had discovered that she was worth fighting for, and that changed everything. 3 days passed on the horizon's edge. 3 days of quiet tension, of worried glances, of waiting. Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness like a boat on gentle waves. Sometimes she would open her eyes and see strange shapes moving around her. She would hear voices speaking a language she barely understood. She would feel warmth on her skin and softness beneath her body. Then she would slip back into darkness, too weak to hold on to the waking world. Jay barely left her side. He slept in the chair next to her bed, ate his meals at the small desk in the corner, and checked her vital signs every hour. The rest of the crew took turns bringing him food and updates, but he refused to leave for more than a few minutes at a time. "You are going to kill yourself at this rate," Hana said on the 3rd day. She was leaning against the doorway with her arms crossed. "When was the last time you actually slept in a real bed?" "I am fine," Jay said, not looking up from his medical notes. "You look like a ghost. I have looked worse." Hana sighed. She knew better than to argue with him when he was like this. She had seen it before years ago, when they had picked up survivors from a destroyed colony ship. Jay had stayed awake for almost a week, refusing to rest until every patient was stable. It was one of the things she respected most about him. It was also one of the things that worried her most. "Just do not die on us," she said. "I am not good at funerals." She left, and Jay went back to his work. But a few minutes later, he heard a sound that made him freeze. A soft voice, barely louder than a whisper. Where am I?" He turned quickly. Lyra's eyes were open. They were clearer now, more focused, looking around the small medical bay with confusion and fear. Jay moved to her side slowly, not wanting to frighten her. "You are on a human ship called Horizon's Edge. My name is Jay. I am a medic. Do you remember me?" She stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, recognition flickered in her eyes. You were on the moon. You carried me." "Yes. Why?" It was the same question she had asked before. Jay gave her the same answer. "Because you needed help." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She turned her face away, ashamed of her own weakness. In Vorian culture, crying was a sign of disgrace. It showed that you could not control your emotions, that you were not worthy of respect. But Jay did not look at her with disgust. He simply handed her a soft cloth to wipe her eyes. "It is okay to cry," he said gently. "Humans do it all the time. It does not mean you are weak. It means you are alive." Lyra took the cloth but did not use it. She just held it in her trembling hands, staring at this strange human who said such confusing things. "You do not understand," she whispered. "I am silver-blooded. I am cursed. My own people left me to die because I should never have been born. Why would you save me? What do you want from me?" Jay sat down in his chair and looked at her with kind eyes. "I do not want anything from you, and I do not believe in curses. Where I come from, blood is just blood. It does not tell you who a person is. It does not tell you what they are worth. That is impossible. Blood is everything. Then let me tell you a story." Lyra was too weak to argue. She lay still and listened as Jay spoke. Long ago on Earth, humans used to believe the same thing. We divided ourselves by the color of our skin. Some people had light skin and some had dark skin, and we decided that this difference meant one group was better than the other. We fought wars over it. We killed millions of our own kind. We treated people like animals because they were born looking different. Lyra listened with wide eyes. What happened? We learned. Slowly, painfully, we learned that skin color does not matter. That it says nothing about a person's heart or mind or soul. We still have problems. We still make mistakes. But we know now that judging someone by how they were born is wrong. He leaned forward slightly. Your blood is silver instead of gold. So what? It does not make you evil. It does not make you worthless. It just makes you different. And different is not bad. Lyra was quiet for a long time. She had never heard anyone say these things before. Her entire life, she had been told that she was a mistake, a curse, a shame upon her family. And now this human, this stranger, was telling her that it was all a lie. I do not know how to believe you, she finally said. That is okay, Jay replied. You do not have to believe me right away. But I am going to prove it to you. Every day. For as long as you are on this ship, I am going to treat you with kindness and respect. And maybe, eventually, you will start to believe that you deserve it. Over the next several days, Lyra began to heal. Her bones mended. Her wounds closed. Her strength slowly returned. But the healing of her body was nothing compared to the healing of her spirit. The crew of the Horizons Edge treated her like a guest, not a prisoner. Captain Yuna came to check on her and told her about the stars they were passing. Hana showed her how the ship's engines worked and let her help with small repairs. Dongsu taught her how to read human star charts and laughed when she mixed up the names of Earth constellations. Even Old Tay, the cook, brought her special meals that he had carefully prepared to match Vorian dietary needs. But it was Jay who spent the most time with her. They talked for hours every day about everything and nothing. He told her about his childhood on Earth, about the Green Mountains where he grew up and the river where he learned to swim. He told her about the war he had fought in and the lives he had failed to save. He told her about the guilt that drove him to become a better healer, to never let another person die if he could prevent it. In return, Lyra told him about her life in the palace. She spoke of cold stone walls and empty hallways, of servants who would not meet her eyes, of a father who looked at her like she was a disease. She spoke of long nights spent alone, dreaming of a world where someone might love her. I used to pray to the stars, she admitted one evening. I would ask them to send someone who could see me. Really see me. Not the curse. Not the silver blood. Just me. Jay smiled. And now? Now I think maybe they were listening. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool and her fingers were thin, but her grip was strong. Jay held her hand gently, feeling something warm bloom in his chest. They stayed like that for a long time, two broken souls finding comfort in each other. But their peace could not last forever. Ambassador Crow had not been idle. His messages to the Vorian homeworld had been received, and the response was coming. 1 week after Jay first found Lyra, Dongsu's voice came over the ship's communication system. Captain Yuna to the bridge. We have a problem. Yuna and Jay left the medical bay and hurried to the bridge. What they saw on the scanner made their hearts sink. 5 Vorian warships had just entered the system. They were heading straight for the horizon's edge, and they were armed for battle. Emperor Torvok had come to finish what he started. Yuna looked at Jay. He looked back at her. Neither of them said anything, but they both knew what was coming. The fight for Lyra's life was just beginning. And this time, kindness might not be enough to save them. The shuttle bay doors opened with a loud hiss, and Jay rushed inside carrying the broken body of the alien princess. His heart was pounding. Her breathing was getting weaker with every passing minute. He needed to get her to the medical bay immediately. Captain Yuna was waiting for him with Hana and Dong-Su. Their faces showed shock when they saw what he was carrying. "A Vorian?" Yuna asked, her voice tight with concern. "She is badly hurt," Jay said, not stopping. "I need to operate now." He pushed past them and hurried down the corridor toward the medical bay. The ship was small, and the medical bay was even smaller. It had only one bed, basic equipment, and supplies that were meant for humans, not aliens. But Jay had treated other species before. He would find a way. He placed Lyra gently on the bed. She had passed out during the flight back, which was probably a mercy. The pain must have been terrible. He began connecting her to the monitoring equipment, adjusting the settings to read Vorian biology. The door behind him opened. He expected Captain Yuna. Instead, he heard a voice that made his blood run cold. "Stop what you are doing, human." Jay turned slowly. Standing in the doorway was Krell, the Vorian ambassador who had been traveling with them for the past month. He was tall and thin, with skin the color of deep ocean water and golden eyes that showed no warmth. Krell was on their ship as part of a cultural exchange program, meant to improve relations between humans and Vorians. He had spent most of his time looking at the human crew like they were insects. Now those golden eyes were fixed on the unconscious woman on the bed, and his expression was one of pure disgust. "You know who this is," Krell said. It was not a question. "I know she's dying," Jay replied. "That is all that matters to me. She is Princess Lyra, the silver-blooded shame of the Vorian Empire." Krell stepped closer, his hands clasped behind his back. "Her existence is a crime against our sacred laws. Her death has already been ordered by the Emperor himself. You cannot save her, cannot, or should not." "Both." Krell's voice was ice. "If you interfere with Vorian justice, you will create a diplomatic disaster. Your entire species will suffer the consequences." Captain Yuna appeared in the doorway, her face pale. She had heard everything. Behind her, Hana and Dong-Su watched with worried eyes. "Jay," Yuna said carefully, "maybe we should talk about this." "There is nothing to talk about," Jay said. He turned back to Lyra and continued working. "She is my patient. I do not abandon patients." Krell's eyes narrowed. "You are a fool. This woman is worth nothing. Less than nothing. Her blood is silver. Do you understand what that means? It means she is cursed. It means she was born wrong. Even her own father wants her dead. Then her father is a monster." The words hung in the air like thunder. No one spoke. No one moved. Jay could feel everyone staring at him, but he did not care. He had seen too much suffering in his life to stay quiet now. Krell recovered first. His thin lips curved into a cold smile. "You are brave for a human. Foolish, but brave. I will give you one last chance. Step away from the princess and let nature take its course. I will tell the Emperor that you tried to save her but failed. No one needs to know the truth. No one needs to suffer." Jay looked at the unconscious woman on the bed. Her silver blood was leaking through the bandages he had placed on her wounds. Her breathing was shallow and her heartbeat was weak. Without help, she would die within the hour. He thought about what Krell had said. He thought about the diplomatic consequences, the political fallout, the danger to his crew and his species. He thought about all the reasons why walking away would be the smart choice. Then he thought about the way Lyra had looked at him when he found her. The confusion in her eyes when he said he wanted to help. The tears when he told her that her blood did not matter. She had lived her entire life believing she was worthless. And now she was being asked to die for the crime of being born different. Jay moved to the doorway and stood directly in front of Krell. "She is my patient," he said quietly. "If you want to stop me from saving her, you will have to go through me." Krell stared at him for a long moment. Then he looked past Jay to Captain Yuna. "Control your crew member, Captain, before he destroys everything." All eyes turned to Yuna. The captain stood frozen, her face a mask of conflict. Jay knew what she was thinking. The Vorian Empire was powerful. One wrong move could lead to sanctions, trade restrictions, even military action. The safe choice was to sacrifice one dying princess to keep the peace. But Yuna had not become a salvage captain because she liked making safe choices. "This is my ship," she said slowly. "And on my ship, we do not let people die because someone tells us they are worthless. Ambassador Krell, you are welcome to file a formal complaint with whatever authorities you want. But right now, you are going to step back and let my medic do his job." Krell's golden eyes blazed with fury. "You will regret this." "Maybe," Yuna said. "But at least I will be able to sleep at night." The ambassador turned and stormed out of the medical bay. His footsteps echoed down the corridor like angry thunder. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Hannah let out a long breath. "Wow," she said, "that is going to make dinner awkward." Despite everything, Jay almost smiled. He turned back to his patient and began working in earnest. The next several hours were the hardest of his medical career. Vorian biology was different from human biology in ways that made everything complicated. Their bones were denser. Their organs were in different positions. Their blood required specific chemicals that Jay did not have, but he had something more powerful than equipment or supplies. He had determination. Yuna brought in tools. Hana modified the surgical equipment to work on Vorian tissue. Dongsu searched the ship's database for any information about Vorian medicine. Even the ship's cook, a quiet old man named Tay, came to help, bringing food and water so Jay could keep working without stopping Don as Jay operated. He talked to Lyra even though she could not hear him. "You are going to be okay," he said softly. "I do not know who told you that you were worthless, but they were wrong. Everyone has value. Everyone deserves a chance to live." He set her broken bones. He stopped her internal bleeding. He cleaned and sealed her wounds. One by one, he fixed the things that were broken, fighting against death with every tool he had. Outside the medical bay, Krell sent message after message to the Vorian homeworld. He told them what was happening. He demanded that they send ships immediately. He warned that the humans were committing an act of war by interfering with imperial justice. The crew did not know it yet, but the storm was already coming. But in that small medical bay, under the flickering lights of an old salvage ship, something beautiful was happening. A man who had seen too much death was refusing to accept another. A woman who had never known kindness was receiving it for the first time. And a crew that had spent years picking through the wreckage of other people's lives was finally building something instead of salvaging it. When the surgery was finally complete, Jay sat down heavily in a chair beside the bed. He was exhausted beyond words. His hands were shaking. His back ached. But the monitors showed a stable heartbeat, steady breathing, and a patient who would live. Yuna came in and put a hand on his shoulder. "You did good," she said quietly. Jay looked at Lyra's sleeping face. She looked peaceful now, so different from the broken creature he had found in the wreckage. "We all did," he said. "Now we just have to see what happens next." What happened next would change everything. But for now, in this quiet moment, it was enough to know that they had done the right thing. And sometimes, that is all you can do. The moon had no name. It was a cold, dead rock floating at the edge of Vorian space, far from any trade route or colony. Nothing lived there. Nothing grew. It was the perfect place to hide a crime. Princess Lyra lay among the twisted metal of her transport ship. Her body was broken in ways she could not count. One of her arms bent at an angle that made no sense. Her legs would not move when she told them to. Blood leaked from wounds on her chest and head, but the blood was wrong. It was silver, not gold. That silver blood was the reason she was dying here, alone, forgotten. She had always known this day would come. From the moment of her birth, when the royal doctors saw the color of her blood and stepped back in fear, her fate was sealed. In Vorian culture, the royal family carried golden blood. It was a sign of divine favor, of the right to rule. Silver blood meant corruption. It meant shame. It meant she should never have been born. Her father, Emperor Torvak, had let her live as a child only because killing a baby would look bad to other species. But he never loved her. He never touched her. He never even spoke her name in public. She was raised in the far corner of the palace by servants who feared her. She ate alone. She slept alone. She existed, but she did not truly live. Now, at the age of what humans would call 23, her father had finally decided she was too much of a risk. Other noble families were starting to ask questions. Some whispered that silver blood might not be a curse at all. Some wondered if the old beliefs were wrong. Torvak could not allow such thoughts to spread. So he ordered her death, disguised as an accident during a routine transport to a distant moon. The guards who flew the ship did not even pretend. They crashed it on purpose and left her in the wreckage. She heard them laughing as they flew away in an escape pod. To them, she was nothing. Less than nothing. Lyra tried to move. The pain exploded through her body. She stopped trying. Above her, she could see the stars through a hole in the ship's hull. They were beautiful. She had always loved stars. When she was a little girl, she would sneak to the highest tower of the palace just to look at them. She told herself that somewhere out there, someone might want her. Someone might see her silver blood and not turn away in disgust. Now she knew that was a foolish dream. No one wanted her. No one ever would. She closed her eyes and waited for death. Far above the dead moon, a human salvage ship called Horizon's Edge moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was not a fancy ship. The paint was old and chipped. Some of the lights flickered in ways they should not. But the crew loved it because it was home. Captain Una stood on the bridge, watching the scanner with tired eyes. She was a woman in her early 40s with short black hair and a face that showed the hard years of space travel. She had been doing this job for 15 years, picking through wreckage and abandoned stations for anything valuable. It was not glamorous work, but it was honest. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," said Dong-Su, the navigator. He was a thin man with glasses that he always pushed up his nose when he was nervous. He was pushing them up now. Una walked over to his station. "What is it?" "A crash site on that moon. Fresh. Maybe a few hours old." He pointed at his screen. "There is a life sign. Weak, but definitely there." Una frowned. The moon was in Vorian space. Humans and Vorians had a complicated relationship. They were not enemies, but they were not friends either. Vorians thought humans were primitive and emotional. Humans thought Vorians were cold and cruel. Both were probably right. "To be a trap," said Hana, the engineer. She was leaning against the wall with her arms crossed. She was young, only 25, with oil stains on her face from working on the engines. "Vorians do not like us poking around their territory." "Could be," Una agreed. "But if there is someone alive down there, then we have to check," said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. Jay stood there, already pulling on his medical jacket. He was the ship's medic, a man of 30 with kind eyes and steady hands. He had joined the crew 3 years ago after leaving the military, where he had seen too much death. Now he saved lives instead of taking them. "We do not even know what species it is," Hana said. "Does not matter," Jay replied simply. "If they are alive, they need help." Yuna looked at him for a long moment. She knew arguing with Jay about saving lives was pointless. The man would walk into a burning star if he thought someone needed medical attention. "Fine," she said. "Take a shuttle down. But be careful. And be quick." Jay nodded and left without another word. 15 minutes later, his small shuttle touched down on the moon's surface, not far from the wreckage. The crash site was bad. The ship had hit the ground hard and broken into several pieces. Jay walked through the debris with his medical scanner in hand, following the weak life sign. His boots crunched on frozen metal. His breath made clouds in the cold air inside his helmet. Then he found her. She was Vorian. That much was clear from her pale blue skin and the delicate ridges along her forehead. But she was badly hurt. Broken bones, internal bleeding, burns. It was a miracle she was alive at all. Jane knelt beside her and began scanning her injuries. As he worked, he noticed something strange. Her blood was silver. He had studied Vorian biology during his training, and he knew their blood was supposed to be gold. Silver was, he tried to remember, something about royalty? Something forbidden? It did not matter right now. What mattered was that she was dying. "Can you hear me?" he asked softly. Her eyes opened. They were large and dark, filled with pain and something else. Fear, but also confusion. She looked at him like she could not understand why he was there. Who are you?" she whispered. "My name is Jay. I am a medic. I am going to help you." She stared at him. "Why?" The question surprised him. "Because you are hurt, but my blood." She lifted her hand weakly, showing the silver liquid on her fingers. "You can see what I am. I see that you are injured and need medical care. That is all I need to see." Tears formed in her eyes. She had never heard such words before. In her entire life, no one had ever looked at her silver blood and said it did not matter. Jay carefully lifted her into his arms. She cried out in pain, and he whispered apologies as he carried her back to the shuttle. Behind him, the wreckage of her old life faded into the darkness. Ahead, something new was beginning, but neither of them knew yet just how much that simple act of kindness would change everything.